Theodore Robert Bundy, born Cowell, November 24, 1946 to January 24, 1989, was an American serial killer who kidnapped, raped, and murdered numerous young women and girls during the 1970s and possibly earlier. After more than a decade of denials, he confessed to 30 murders he committed in 7 states between 1974 and 1978. Bundy's true victim total is unknown, and is likely significantly higher. He would typically approach his victims in public places, either feigning a physical impairment such as an injury or impersonating an authority figure, before bludgeoning them into unconsciousness and taking them to secondary locations to be raped and strangled. He decapitated at least 12 victims and kept their severed heads as mementos in his apartment. On a few occasions, he broke into dwellings at night and bludgeoned his victims as they slept. In 1975, Bundy was arrested and jailed in Utah for aggravated kidnapping and attempted criminal assault. He then became a suspect in a progressively longer list of unsolved homicides in several states. For the Florida homicides, he received 3 death sentences in 2 trials. Bundy was executed at Florida State Prison in Rayford on January 24, 1989. Biographer Ann Rule described Bundy as a sadistic sociopath who took pleasure from another human's pain and the control he had over his victims, to the point of death and even after. Ted Bundy was born Theodore Robert Cowell on November 24, 1946, to Eleanor Louise Cowell, 1924–2012, went by her middle name, at the Elizabeth Lund Home for Unwed Mothers in Burlington, Vermont. Louise stated she had been seduced by a war veteran named Jack Worthington, who abandoned her soon after she became pregnant with Ted. Some family members expressed suspicions that Bundy might have been fathered by Louise's own father, Samuel Cowell, but no material evidence has ever been cited to support this. Family, friends, and even young Ted himself were told that his grandparents were his parents and that his mother was his older sister. Biographer and true crime writer Ann Rule, who knew Bundy personally, believed that he did not find out until 1969, when he located his original birth record in Vermont. Bundy expressed a lifelong resentment toward his mother for never talking to him about his real father and for leaving him to discover his true parentage for himself. Bundy occasionally exhibited disturbing behavior at an early age. In some interviews, Bundy spoke warmly of his grandparents and told Rule that he identified with, respected, and clung to his grandfather. In 1987, however, he and other family members told attorneys that Samuel was a tyrannical bully and a bigot who hated blacks, Italians, Catholics, and Jews, beat his wife and the family dog, and swung neighborhood cats by their tails. He sometimes spoke aloud to unseen presences, and at least once flew into a violent rage when the question of Bundy's paternity was raised. Bundy described his grandmother as a timid and obedient woman who periodically underwent electroconvulsive therapy for depression and feared to leave their house toward the end of her life. In 1950, Louise changed her surname from Cowell to Nelson and at the urging of multiple family members, left Philadelphia with Ted to live with cousins Alan and Jane Scott in Tacoma, Washington. In 1951, Louise met Johnny Culpepper Bundy, 1921–2007, a hospital cook, at an adult singles night at Tacoma's First Methodist Church. They married later that year and Johnny formally adopted Ted.